This little tablet is the Huion Kamvas 13 Gen 3. That means this is the third generation of their 13-inch drawing tablet. This is not the Pro version, but when you first plug it in and look at the screen, you would be hard-pressed to tell that this is supposed to be the cheap budget version because it looks really good. Hello, my name is Brad. I review tech for creative professionals, and I could go around and nitpick this display all I want. I could say, hey, the viewing angles, they could be better. The refresh rate, it's only 60 hertz. But the reality here is that these inexpensive LCD panels, not just Huion's, but like across the board, most monitors nowadays have gotten to the point where they look pretty darn good. The lamination on this thing is crazy tight nowadays. There's no space between the glass and the screen below it. It sits flush across the top of that surface. That makes the colors pop even more, even though there's a matte texture on the top, and that matte texture is there to give you a little bit more of a like drawing edge, a little bit of texture when your pencil's dragging across it, but also to cut down on reflections, because oftentimes this may be sitting flat on your desk or pretty close, so your ceiling lights could reflect on it. And drawing on this, playing with this, holding this in your hands, it doesn't feel like an entry-level tablet. Even the pen works great. It does not look cheap. It has 3 buttons. It has a rubbery grip on the top. It flares out. It feels good in the hand. It's really well weighted. I pulled out this Wacom One pen just to show it off, right? To see these two things next to each other. Now, the Wacom pen does cost more. It does not come with the Wacom One tablets. And it feels cheap and hollow and plastic. It looks plasticky. It's not nearly as nice as this Huion pen is, and that just comes in the box. In fact, I'm looking at this and I'm wondering, why would I get a more expensive version of this tablet? Now, this is only 1920 by 1080, and the materials are plastic. But in some ways, who cares? It's still thin, it's still light, it's still easy to slip into a laptop bag. And when you take a look at what comes in the box, you can see there isn't as much stuff here as there is with the Pro tablet. You get the tablet itself, of course, and then there's a stand underneath. Now, this doesn't come with every version. This is the one they sent to me. The stand comes in the box. If you order off their website, that does cost another $20. If you order this off of Amazon or something like this, you're probably going to have to look at the fine print and see if your version does come with a stand. And I already talked about the pens a little bit. The higher end models come with 2 pens. This one only comes with 1. Oh, here's a difference. Here's the pen holder. It's smaller than the other pen holders. It has extra nibs inside of it, but it doesn't have any of those fancy gray felt tip ones that feel a little bit more grippy. That's something that the Pro just comes with by default. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't get those felt tip nibs. Those just cost an extra $10 on Huion's website if you want to pick any up. Another big difference here is there aren't as many cables in the box. The Pro boxes usually come with like everything you need. In fact, more cables than you will ever use. This comes with 2 cables. One is a 3-in-1 cable. One end of that cable goes into your tablet. The other end has an HDMI port and 2 USB Type A ports. So if you have a computer with an HDMI port and 2 USB-A ports, you can just plug everything in and you're good to go. Now, not everybody has that many USB Type A ports, and so if that's the case, it comes with a second cable, which is for power. Red end goes in the red cable. You will have to supply your own power brick, kind of like the one you may use to charge your phone or something like that. If you have one of those lying around, that's enough to pull some power out and power this thing. That is not the only way to connect it. You could also use a USB Type-C cable. That's what I used. In fact, I only needed 1 cable. Newer laptops that have Thunderbolt displays, display out ports with their USB Type-C, it works perfectly. It works fine. It's possible that you may have display out, but it still needs more power to run, in which case you could also use a second USB Type-C cable and plug that into like a power outlet, and then it's going to have enough power to run. I didn't need that. You might. Another thing that you may run into, and I've run into this problem on Huion products before, is that there are 2 USB Type-C ports along the side of the device. One of the ports is like a standard port. The other one's too skinny, so a normal cable won't fit in that. So say you have a USB Type-C cable connecting to your computer and you need to use a second USB Type-C cable in order to plug it into the wall for power. Most USB Type-C cables are too thick along the top to actually fit in that hole. You'll have to get a special one from Huion's website. We also have a little instruction booklet here, a cleaning cloth, and of course, what every drawing tablet needs, a drawing glove. Oh, that's a sick beat. I'm drawing my comic here in the background of this here video, but if you're looking to brush up on your drawing basics or just get your feet wet in illustration, I have a course called Learn to Draw in 60 Days over on my website, bradsartschool.com. We learn how to draw different objects in perspective, and they get harder as we go. And we dabble in figure drawing and landscape drawing and shading, lots of other stuff. We got 60 days worth of lessons there. And don't forget to use the discount code I have down below in the description. Anyway, on to the rest of the video. So I've already touched on the display a little bit. It's 1920 by 1080. And at larger sizes, like if this was a 16-inch tablet, then that screen starts to look pixelated. You actually can see like around text and stuff. It's just not as crisp and clear. But at 13 inches, full HD looks pretty good to me. And the brightness here is more than I would expect for a budget display. It's better than it was just a generation or two ago. Another thing you're not going to find in a tablet like this, a budget tablet, is multi-touch, so this is not a touch screen. There is a hotspot along the upper right-hand corner of the screen, so when you're drawing, if your hand like slides up there, you are going to notice it just gets a little bit warmer there. The rest of the tablet is just fine, and I'm okay with that. Most tablets do have a hotspot where it's drawing in power and processing things, but as long as it's not like where your palm is usually resting, you're okay. Now, when this thing is lying flat on the table, I can see that the screen gets a little bit darker, but if you just turn it up a little bit, 10, 20 degrees, where most people are going to have it anyway for drawing, it's fine. Now, some of these drawing tablets have been coming with feet, so you could just fold them out and have it at a nice drawing angle. This does not. It's got a flat bottom. That's why if you don't have a stand, it's probably a good idea to get the version of this display that actually comes with the stand. Even though it's $20 more, it's a really nice stand that sets up at a lot of different angles. It's super easy to use, and it fits pretty much anything. So if you get an Android tablet or an iPad or something down the road, you could use this stand for that too. Now, 13 inches isn't a bad size. It might be on the small side for some people because you're going to have to adjust your interface to accommodate for the size of things like the buttons in Photoshop. For example, on the left-hand side of my toolbar here, because I have the interface bumped up a little bit so things are just easier to hit with the pen, some of my tools are hidden. I can't see the colors there. Go with a larger display like 16 inches or up, that's not so much of a problem because you could reduce the size of all the interface elements. It's going to give you a little bit more space to draw on too. Another thing worth noting here is when you open this thing up, out of the box, this thing comes color calibrated. There's actually a little sheet of paper that tells you about it. And that's another thing that you notice on this tablet is sometimes you get a new monitor or display and you'll be like, this looks a little too blue, and you have to go in and you got to fiddle with it. Or maybe it looks a little too yellow and you got to go in, you got to fiddle with the color. On newer displays, I see this less and less, and things just come out looking good from the get-go, and that's what's happening here too. Now, another thing you're going to see on this tablet that you probably noticed right away is we have these two scroll wheels. I don't know if I've seen a tablet with two scroll wheels. I'm sure somebody's made one, but it's kind of nice to have that and the shortcut keys right here. On the Pro version of Huion's things, they have like a little shortcut remote that comes in the box, but here we have our shortcuts right there on the front of the tablet. Pretty handy, honestly. Those little scroll wheels can be set up to do things like increase, decrease your brush size, or you could set them to like rotate your canvas. You could set them to like zoom in and out. And since you have two of them, you could set one thing to do one thing and the other to do another thing. And there's a little center button in the middle so you can toggle through various settings as well. And of course, all of the buttons that are along the side are totally customizable. As far as the drivers and the software that it comes with, it's fine. It doesn't have a ton of bells and whistles to it, but it gets the job done. You can customize your pen, you can customize your tablet. You can tell it, I want it to draw on my main monitor, or I want my pen to control the tablet. You could do all the basics you would expect your drawing software to do. So let's see what this fancy pen can do. I'm going to just start by checking my pressure, and I'm going to paint very lightly and then apply more pressure and just try to get some nice curves going here to see where things look good, where they don't look good. And overall, I think this pen looks absolutely fantastic. I'm going to do that again, but I'm going to reduce my brush size a little bit because what I'm really looking for is a slight wave on some of these lines. Really light, apply more pressure, kind of come in here, and overall it seems to be doing a really good job. Let me zoom in, and then we can kind of pan over and we can take a look at some of these lines a little closer here, because the thing I'm looking for are these angles here. When I draw some of these angles, oftentimes I'm going to get a little bit of jitter or a little bit of wave on the line, and I'm not seeing that at all with this pen. So let's zoom on out, and I want to test my slow angled lines, and these look fantastic. These look like some of the best lines I've ever seen on a Huion device, if I'm being honest. I think I'm gonna go get a ruler. Okay, I can't find my wooden ruler. I can only find my metal one, which will screw things up. So let's cheat. Let's use the side of the little instruction manual. Slow angled line. What is it gonna look like? It's really good. That's almost perfectly straight. We're talking about Wacom quality with this pen. I don't know what Huion's done here. Usually there's just a touch of wave. It has been improving. I don't know if it's the lamination, the improved laminations that is doing this. Maybe it's the pen itself, but whatever it is, it's looking pretty good. So let's do quick dashed lines. The type of thing I'm looking for here is any kind of shoestringing, anything that's gonna look out of place. Let's zoom in on those and let's move over, and I see zero shoestringing, maybe a teeny tiny bit, but man, that would be nitpicking. I think the edge of these lines, even when I go fast, are looking really, really good. This thing also seems to be holding pressure well, right? So if I'm pressing really lightly and drawing circles, it's working well. If I go kind of medium level, it's not blowing out anywhere on the pressure curve. Seems to be holding pressure well. That's another thing that I'm looking for. And the last thing I just want to take a look at is initial activation rate, where I press as lightly as possible and see what happens. And I do kind of get a line sometimes, and sometimes I don't. It kind of comes in and out. It's probably hard to see on camera. This is something that I think the XP pen does a little bit better here. That has fantastic initial activation rate, but this is good enough, because if you are drawing lightly, something is going to appear. As you apply more pressure, your line's gonna get thicker, or more paint's gonna come out depending on the brush. I'm gonna give this pen like a 9.5 out of 10. This is fantastic. This is the best pen Huion has ever made. This is on par with what I'm seeing out of Wacom pens at this point. I don't see any wobble on the line. Really enjoying it. No notes. I'm struggling here because my only real problem with this drawing tablet is that getting the right cables will cost you more. The port on the side could be wider. Drives me nuts when I have a super positive review, because the comments are always like, they paid you to say that. But I'm seriously struggling to find problems with this. Look, it's not perfect, but it's $350. And for $350, I think you're getting a good deal here. You're gonna have to pay more if you wanna get a higher res screen, like 1440p and up. You're gonna have to pay more if you want to get touch. If you want a larger tablet, you're gonna have to pay more. So $350 for the level of quality that you're getting here just makes a lot of sense to me. Last summer, Wacom came out with a 13-inch tablet, the Wacom One 13. Honestly, to me, this is just a better product. The screen looks better. You can say that the Wacom One has touch. This does not have touch, but then again, the Wacom One is significantly more money. And when you get the Wacom One, you have to buy all of the accessories extra. You have to buy the pen, you have to buy the cables, you got to get all that stuff. Now, XP Pen has a 13-inch tablet that's about, I think that one's about 2 years old now. It's significantly cheaper. It's like $150 less. That's not a bad tablet either, although I will say if you go up to the Pro version of their tablet, they have a 14-incher. That one is really nice. I think this one feels more, in terms of quality, aligned with XP Pen's Pro tablet than it does with like their entry-level tablet. And it goes back to my general feelings about this kind of feels like the Pro level version of the thing, not like an entry-level version. But I think that's great. I think it's a really good value for what you're getting. But what do you think? Let me know down below in the comments. Thank you all for watching, and I'll talk to you in a couple of days.